Because so the conversation is still on. We are looking at cultural diversity. Eric has been in the US for some 32 years, and then Quist also goes and comes. I'll be here, but I'll go maybe tomorrow.
Definitely.
But join in the conversation. Let us know how cultural diversity affects us as a nation, whether positively or negatively. Facebook is ZTV_Ghana. Instagram and Twitter is ZTV_GH. SMS or WhatsApp is 0501-454527. The big conversation is still on. Be a part of it. Let me come back to you. So you go and then you come, you go and you were talking about sanitation.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Western world, they started from somewhere when it comes to sanitation. You think that as a country, we are not doing enough, as it were, to keep our surroundings so clean? Because when you go to other parts, there are dustbins, you put plastics here, you put biodegradables here, you put this here and there. But even here, the one dustbin, one for all, exactly. Talk less of segregating all these things. We think that as a country, what more is expected of us to do when you compare hygiene or sanitation in the other parts of the world?
Great. So let me quickly backtrack to the issue of correcting the child with the beating and all that. Then I'll just zoom into what we're talking about. You find a certain situation in a home setting where you'd hear parents trying to quote scriptures to say that there's foolishness on the child, in the heart of the child, and it's only the rod of correction. And with that scripture,
and then you spare the rod, you spoil the child.
You spoil the child. But let us not forget that the motive with which you are correcting the child is also very important than the rod itself.
Okay.
And so it's not just about beating the child to correct the child. You are beating the child to correct a setting situation. So because if you're not careful, then you actually introducing timidity into the child. And that is why most African children, because they have been exposed to that kind of treatment, are not too open. They can't even, they don't have that self-confidence.
Over the weekend, I observed a woman, sorry to cut you, in my neighborhood. And then she came her to, I think she went to Accra and came back. She asked the kids to do something they didn't do. And then she gave each of them 30 lashes. 30. I stood there and I counted 30 lashes. And people were screaming, begging her. She just locked them inside the room and asked them to cry when they are finished, and then she would open up them. I said, how do we say it? Unlike the Western world, where in the Western world too, if you just said that, in the Western world, pampering is like, I'll take you to the mall. And then they know that's a punishment. But here in Ghana, if you there misbehave, I'll cane you 30 lashes. What do you think we should do more? You were talking about the sanitation.
So the sanitation, the solution is not to provide dustbins. That's not where you start from.
Where do we start from?
We must start from making the people understand why they should not put rubbish on the ground.
So public education.
Yes, and I think we are not doing much. We should actually get people to sensitize and educate the people some of these things, because when I take when I eat, the wrapper, for me, for example, I would either take it home or look for the nearest dustbin and then put it in it. In a situation where you get to a place where they tell you, put the cans here and then the biodegradables here, if you don't know how to read the inscription on the dustbins, you'd mix it up.
Anyway.
And I always say that you'd only know the quality of life of in a certain geographical location when you study the content in their dustbin.
The content in
their dustbin. If you're able to study the content in the dustbin and even how they are mixed up, it tells you the mind of the people living in that place.
Here in Ghana, we mix up everything.
Yeah, but check the dustbins that are picked from certain places I don't want to mention, and other places are.
Okay, so
and you realize there's a difference. One of them you see bagged.
Yeah.
One of them you see the rubbish bagged.
Bagged is true.
In
nice
and tied.
And tied.
It's the same dustbin, but the content is presented differently.
Okay.
So it tells you the quality of thinking of the people in that geographical distance. And other places you go, they just throw. And people also, there's this culture coming up. Once you see the dustbin, it means that anywhere around the dustbin, 100 meters radius, is also a rubbish dump inside.
Okay, so people
And
don't
so
really get there, they just
with
throw
time, they just throw in. They don't walk to it because of the smell or something. But if we all learn to walk to the dustbin, open it, and then put it in it, or we wrap it carefully, we reduce the stench around, and people would want to put the rubbish in there.
Okay.
So the sanitation, and that's just one aspect of
Okay.
it, because there are also other things that we can be looking at when
Okay.
it comes to
when it
sanitation.
comes to. I think there's a question here for Eric.